Lord Mayor, Ms. Karen Oldfield, President of Halifax Port Authority, and distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Karen for your kind invitation to me to address at this breakfast function. Port of Halifax is not new to me. I visited this place about 2 years ago. So it's extremely pleased to come back to this place. And the good thing is that the weather is just good. Last time I came in the winter. Just last week I was in the north. The cold weather really, has made me to take more heavy clothes with me. But this time, before I came, my colleagues told me that temperature here will also be very low. So I take with me some warm clothes, but I found that the weather is just perfect. And I feel warmer of the people in welcoming me to this beautiful city. So the theme of this year, Port Days Halifax, our East Coast Asian Gateway, shows very well your aspiration to be a big player in Canada's economic relations with Asia as a whole. And it is also reflected the aspiration of the Canadian people to pursue a development through cooperation with a booming Asia. So we in China also have an aspiration. That is what we call Chinese dream. And it is dream to build a more prosperous China, to revitalize the Chinese nation, and to improve livelihoods of its people. So these two aspirations have so much in common, and cooperation is the key to the realization of both. So our two great nations have a very solid foundation for cooperation. China now is the second largest trading partner of Canada, and the only country among Canada's top 10 export destinations whose import from Canada keeps growing through the years since the financial crisis. For Canada, China is one of the important sources of foreign capital, the largest source of international students, and the fast-growing tourist market. Canada has been an important partner of China, with China of its development in trade, investment, science and technology, agriculture, and many areas. Some figures here shows how strong our economic relation is. Last year, we have about 75 billion US dollars in trade, according to your statistics. And we have seen 72,000 or more than 72,000 Chinese students studying in this country. I remember 43 years ago when we established relations with Canada. The Chinese government sent 7 students to Canada 43 years ago. Of course, 2 of them have later become ambassadors and to Canada. So a successful story which has brought today up to 72,000 students. So this is really a very strong connections between the peoples. And when the Prime Minister visited China, and he got the tourist destinations from the Chinese tourists. Today, since then, we have seen 25% every year's growth. Last year, we have seen about 400,000 Chinese tourists coming to this country. So, since 2008, trade volume between China and 4 Atlantic provinces has increased by 130%. So over the past, and I am told that over the past 5 years, China remained the largest trading partner for the port of Halifax. Now, this morning, having said all this, I'd like to share with you some of my views, a little bit on what is happening in China economically, and on further strengthening the cooperation between China and the Atlantic Canada. About the opportunities. So, in the past 30 years since China's reform and opening up policy, we have witnessed a very rapid development of economy in China at about a double-digit rate growth. So now, China is still continuing its economic development. That means a lot of opportunities, great opportunities for foreign countries to do business with China, to invest with China. So last year, we have come out with the 11th five-year plan, during which the Chinese government has drawn up a very detailed action plan. The priorities of this action plan are the following. Number one, driving domestic demand. Number two, promoting development in an environmentally friendly manner. Number three, bolstering innovation in science and technology. Number four, developing modern service industries. Number five, speeding up the process of its urbanization. All these are vital to China's long-term economic growth. In the short run, this plan is to double the nation's GDP and per capita income of its people by 2020 on the basis of 2010. It is estimated that in the next 5 years, China will spend $10 trillion on imports. Overseas investments from China will be about $500 billion. And China's outbound tourists will reach about 400 million. Recently, I read from the Chinese newspaper who has a very ambitious prediction that each year, starting from this year, we'll have about 100 million tourists going abroad. That is a very ambitious plan. All this means nothing but good news for the whole world, including Canada. Recently, there has been some skepticism about China's economic prospects, and I want to say a few words more about this. As I said, that in the past 30 years, the Chinese GDP almost every year was a double-digit growth. But this year and last 2 years, especially this year, the GDP growth of China is about 7.6% for the first half of this year, which is an obvious slowdown compared with the two-digit growth rate. And of course, it is anticipated in our last People's Congress commencing in March. So we were aiming at growth rate around 7 in the next 5 years. So even at this rate, I think it's very high in the world. And at this rate, then we'll still achieve the double of our volume by 2020 on the basis of 2010. So people are doubt about this rate, saying that whether there'll be a hard landing or not. My answer is no. What we are seeing is largely the result of our proactive macro regulation for the purpose of improving the quality of economic growth. What we have learned from the financial crisis is that economic growth that depends too heavily on export and investment is not sustainable. So I could say that in the past 30 years, we mainly depend on these two pillars while neglect the third pillar is domestic consumption. So therefore, the Chinese government decides to restructure the economy, including curbing on a large amount of irrational investments. Though we expect the economy to cool down a little bit, China will still maintain a growth rate of over 70%, which is very essential for the sustainable development. So I hope that the world will focus on the positive trend and try to seize the opportunities in the Chinese economy. So now, second question is that our cooperation. By Canadian statistics, the trade volume between China and the 4 Atlantic provinces stood at 2 billion Canadian dollars last year, which accounted for only 2.9% of Canada's trade with China. Given that the 4 provinces occupy 6.1% of Canada's total foreign trade, we feel that there's still big room for growth. The urbanization, industrialization, and agricultural modernization in China generates a great demand for energy and resources and your products. So you have just exactly what we need. Iron ore and nickel in Newfoundland and Labrador, lead and potash in New Brunswick, zinc in Nova Scotia, and offshore oil and gas in the whole Atlantic. And the appetite for the fast-growing middle class in China for the fine seafood, meats, vegetables, and grain from Canada can never be underestimated. Lobster is a very good example. Export of fresh lobster from Nova Scotia to China have increased by more than 20 times in the past 5 years. Yesterday, I have the pleasure to visit the headquarters of Clearwater. And Mr. Ian Smith, the chief executive officer, told me that it takes only 48 hours to catch and ship the lobster lobsters from Atlantic waters to China by air. So I believe these lobsters are on the Chinese dinner tables even before they get over the jet lags. So I'm pretty sure folks from the Clearwater Fine Foods are very happy about this. So high-tech trade is another very good way to increase our two-way trade. The Atlantic provinces are very competitive in industries such as aerospace, bio and marine technology, as well as environmental protection. And some of you are already in trade with China. So one approach that the Chinese government adopts in economic transformation is to increase the contribution of science and technology to the economic growth, and there are new trade opportunities in it. Now, I'll come to the investment. Yesterday at dinner, I have been briefed by the Investment Board of Nova Scotia, which has left me a very deep impression, which has enabled me to understand better about this area. I can be very frank, in the last couple of years as an ambassador to Canada, I spent quite a lot of time going to the West, because our investment is quite heavy in the West, especially in the provinces Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan. So the past 2 years, investment by the Chinese companies in Canada has exceeded to $40 billion, a majority of which goes to the west of Canada, where there are abundant energy and resources. Now, more and more Chinese companies are turning to Atlantic Canada for new opportunities. 2 days ago, I was in New Brunswick, meeting the Premier, meeting some ministers. They told me that one of the companies from China is now investing in potash. And some are looking for new opportunities for minerals, for forests, and so on and so forth. I'm very encouraged by all these positive trends. So, for example, China Minmetal Corporation and Hebei Iron Ore Steel Group have invested in Newfoundland and Labrador. At present, hundreds of mega projects are underway in Atlantic provinces. I understand that they range from oil and gas, clean energy, minerals, resources, to mechanical manufacturing and infrastructure, which are here requires a total investment of 115 billion Canadian dollars. If these projects are open to foreign capital, they will for sure attract lots of competitive enterprises in China, both state-owned enterprises and private ones. So my embassy stands ready to promote these opportunities to invest in Canada. Now, another topic is about people-to-people's exchanges. Any long-term business relationship is built on a solid basis of mutual understanding. And there is no exception for China and Canada. Especially, we have a different culture, we have a different history, and we have different value and political systems. Only through the exchange can we understand each other better. Can we do our trade better, business better? So there are quite many Chinese students studying in the universities in Atlantic provinces. 3,000 of whom are in Nova Scotia. Universities and other higher learning institutions from both China and Canada have set up Confucius Institutes through their partnership in Nova Scotia, in New Brunswick, respectively, providing training opportunities on Chinese language and culture and business to the local people. Now we also start to see Chinese tourists coming to this part of the world. All these people-to-people exchanges help promoting mutual understanding and friendship and two-way cooperation. I sincerely wish that more people from the Atlantic provinces go and visit China to see the real China with their own eyes. Next topic I would like to talk about is the collaboration. I recall that the former Premier of Nova Scotia, John Savage, was quoted by National Post as saying, "Wherever I go to sell Nova Scotia, I find that Frank McKinnon, former Premier of New Brunswick, was there the week before." So when you do business with China, my suggestion for you, forgive my bluntness, straightforwardness, is that do it as one team. Team Atlantic Canada. I still remember the days when you sent Team Canada, led by your former Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien. It has become a brand then in the business areas, in the education areas, in China. So why not establish Team Atlantic Canada? In that way, you will not only save costs and improve efficiency, and more importantly, it will be easier for you to catch more attention from the Chinese customers and investors and Chinese authorities. For example, for Chinese tourists, the concept of Atlantic Canada may be more attractive. And for the lobster, the Chinese people are more familiar with Atlantic lobsters. And more examples. More broadly, while you are building links with Asia, expanding sales channels and removing logistical barriers, you will get better results as a team based on shared knowledge, shared experiences, and expertise. So, ladies and gentlemen, the deepening cooperation with China certainly has an ever-growing role for Halifax as Canada's East Coast Asia gateway. The port is of vital importance. So the Atlantic provinces are also important in our bilateral relations. So this is an increasingly interdependent world. Let's work hand in hand along the path to common development and prosperity. And I wish today's event a great success, and I wish you all very best in your business with China. Thank you.